The Bentley kissed the oak tree at 50 miles per hour. Chrome shattered. Glass exploded in diamond fragments across black leather seats. Through the spider-webbed windshield, manicured fingers trembled against a bleeding forehead. Olivia Kingston's vision blurred as smoke began curling from beneath the crumpled hood. The sickly sweet smell of antifreeze mixed with the metallic tang of blood in her nostrils. He emerged from the roadside like smoke-made flesh. Broad shoulders, weathered hands that knew both battlefield medicine and mechanical precision. A man who moved with military efficiency. Easy now. His voice carried the weight of authority earned through midnight emergencies and sleepless nights. Don't move your neck. Let me check your spine first. Olivia felt herself assessed with surgeon-like precision, strong yet gentle hands stabilizing her neck while checking her pupils. The stranger's movements were methodical, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. Raindrops streaked down his face, catching in the stubble of a 3-day beard. His eyes were deep blue, focused entirely on her injuries, rather than the luxury of the car or the expensive watch on her wrist. Wait, please. The words caught in her throat as he eased her from the twisted metal and acrid smell of leaking fuel. Something about his left wrist caught her attention, a distinctive Y-shaped scar visible beneath his pushed-up sleeve. But autumn wind filled the space where he'd stood moments before. No business card, no hero's speech, just tire tracks leading into darkness and the distant wail of approaching sirens. Olivia clutched her bleeding forehead, remembering those deep blue eyes and the Y-shaped scar. Military training, medical knowledge, and a desire for anonymity, a combination that raised more questions than it answered. The alarm clock's shrill cry pierced through paper-thin walls at 3:57 a.m. Jack Miller's eyes opened to stained ceiling tiles and the familiar weight of responsibility pressing against his chest. 4 hours of sleep, a luxury compared to his deployment days. The heating bill notice sat unopened next to Emma's watercolor flowers art that looked more like architectural blueprints than a 7-year-old's imagination. His daughter had his eye for precision, even in innocent creativity. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling silence with promises of caffeine and another day of making ends meet. The engineering degree, hidden in his sock drawer, might as well have been written in a dead language. 4 years ago, when Rebecca's medical bills started arriving like hurricane waves, he traded his corner office for grease stains and honest work. Emma's gentle breathing remained the only sound that mattered in their cramped world. Jack pulled on work clothes fabric rough against skin that had once known Egyptian cotton and boardroom handshakes. The transition from designing aircraft navigation systems at Raytheon to welding broken exhaust pipes had been jarring, but Emma needed stability more than she needed a father chasing ghosts of his former life. The kitchen counter displayed an organized chaos of bills, each sorted by urgency. The medical insurance statement on top bore red stamps he'd become too familiar with the additional documentation required. Coverage pending. Another battle in the endless war against bureaucracy. 8 years as a combat medic hadn't prepared him for the soul-crushing minutiae of fighting insurance companies. The school nurse's note sat beside it. Emma's asthma medication needed adjustment, and the doctor recommended additional tests for her heart murmur. Her inhaler costs had doubled since the insurance company changed their formulary. Another $180 per month that somehow needed to materialize from an already stretched budget. Jack moved through the apartment with the quiet efficiency of someone accustomed to functioning in the dark. Every floorboard that creaked was memorized and avoided. Every cabinet door closed with calculated gentleness. The routine of poverty required its own type of precision. The small bathroom mirror reflected a face that had aged 5 years in the last 4. Still fit from the discipline that military service had instilled, but with new lines around the eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and endless worry. At 38, Jack looked like a man who'd seen too much and carried burdens invisible to most. Emma's room was a splash of color against the apartment's faded beige. Her wheezing was slightly more pronounced than normal, the sound triggering both medical assessment and paternal anxiety. Jack adjusted her blanket hand, lingering to feel the reassuring rise and fall of her chest. Her breathing had that slight catch he'd grown to fear. Peterson's auto shop sat between a laundromat and a diner that wasn't much to look at, but old Dave paid fair wages and didn't ask questions about backgrounds or fallen born dreams. By the time Emma's school bus disappeared around the corner, Jack had diagnosed 2 brake problems and replaced a radiator. His hands moved with the confidence of someone who understood how things worked, whether aircraft guidance systems or temperamental carburetors. The other mechanics had nicknamed him Professor, a title that stuck despite protests. They didn't know about sleepless nights researching Emma's condition or the way he still reached for Rebecca's pillow in his sleep. They just knew his hands could fix almost anything mechanical, and his mind could diagnose problems that left others scratching their heads. Dave Peterson's voice boomed across the garage, cutting through the sounds of pneumatic tools and classic rock radio. Miller got a special customer asking for you specifically. Says it's important. The black sedan pulled into the garage just after noon, engine purring with the contentment of German engineering. Jack didn't look up until he heard the voice that would haunt his thoughts for days to come. Clear, educated, carrying determination that reminded him of Emma when she decided to learn chess. "Excuse me, I'm looking for someone who might have been near Riverside Road on Tuesday evening." She stood in the doorway wearing jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than his monthly rent, but chosen carefully to look ordinary. Her dark hair was pulled back, simply expensive perfume traded for something that wouldn't announce her presence. But money had a way of clinging to people, visible in how she held herself, in quiet confidence that came from never checking bank balances before purchases. The small bandage on her forehead was the only evidence of Tuesday's chaos. "I'm sorry to bother you. There was an accident. Someone helped me, and I never got to thank them properly." Her eyes moved across the garage with the focused intensity of someone who wasn't used to being told no. Dave emerged from his office, wiping hands on a greased rag. "Can I help you, miss?" She smiled, the kind of expression that could charm information out of Swiss bankers. "I'm Olivia Kingston, CEO of Kingston Biomedical. I'm trying to find someone who was very kind to me earlier this week." Jack's hands stilled on his wrench. Tuesday evening felt both like yesterday and a lifetime ago, memory sharp enough to cut glass. Training had kicked in before conscious thought when he'd seen the Bentley leave the road like a silver bullet. He'd pulled her from wreckage, stayed just long enough to ensure she was breathing steadily, then disappeared before sirens arrived. Heroes attracted attention, and attention led to questions he wasn't ready to answer. "Wish I could help," Dave said, genuinely apologetic. "Most of my boys were here late Tuesday fixing Mrs. Abernathy's transmission." "Anything specific about this guy?" She hesitated, gaze moving like a searchlight across the garage floor. He seemed to know what he was doing. Medical training, maybe. Military background. The words hit Jack like cold water, accurate enough to make him wonder if she'd been more aware during the rescue than he had realized. As she spoke, her eyes fixed on Jack's forearms, exposed where he'd rolled up his sleeves. When she spotted the distinctive Y-shaped scar on his left wrist, a souvenir from a field surgery gone wrong in Afghanistan, her expression changed. Recognition flickered in her eyes, but she said nothing. The conversation felt like quicksand, each word pulling him deeper into situations he'd been trying to avoid. He'd help because helping was what you did when you had skills and someone else had need. No ulterior motives, no desire for recognition. But gratitude had a way of complicating simple gestures, turning good deeds into obligations nobody had asked to incur. "If anyone does remember something," she said, pausing at the garage entrance, "my name is Olivia Kingston. I'll be staying at the Lakeside Inn for a few more days." She placed a business card on the counter, Kingston Biomedical CEO, then walked out with the confident stride of someone used to boardrooms and executive decisions. After she left, the garage felt different, as if her presence had shifted atoms in the air. Dave picked up the business card, whistling low. "Biomedical, huh? Fancy lady. Like that doesn't usually come around these parts. Think you know something about her accident?" "Jack, just another car wreck, Dave. Happens all the time." Dave's eyes narrowed slightly, the wisdom of his 65 years seeing more than Jack wanted to reveal. "You know, son, not every connection with another human being is a threat. Might do you good to have a friend outside these grease monkeys." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of oil changes and tire rotations, but Jack's mind kept returning to Olivia Kingston. CEO of a biomedical company, driving alone at night in a storm, now searching for an anonymous rescuer. The narrative had holes large enough to drive a truck through. That evening, while Emma worked on homework, buzzing with finger paint energy and questions about fractions, Jack found himself searching Kingston Biomedical on his cracked smartphone screen. The company was real enough. A startup focused on pediatric cardiac devices founded 3 years ago. several patents pending, a decent-sized research team, and headquarters in Boston. What are you looking at? Daddy Emma's voice pulled him back to their small kitchen table, her math homework spread across the surface. Just reading about car parts, sweetheart. How's the math coming along? Emma's face scrunched in concentration, a mirror of Rebecca's expression when tackling complex problems. It's okay. Miss Patterson says I'm good at seeing patterns. Their routine unfolded with comfortable predictability. Homework while Jack prepared dinner, bath time with enough bubbles to satisfy rubber duck. Army story time and checking closets for monsters. Emma had inherited Rebecca's practical nature, but Jack's imagination, making bedtime an adventure in creative problem solving. Tonight she wanted stories about brave knights who saved people, a request that hit closer to home than she could know. Jack crafted tales about knights who helped people in trouble, but never stayed for rewards or recognition, heroes who believed good deeds were their own reward. Daddy, why don't the knights ever stay to get thanked? Emma's question hung in the air between them. Sometimes the bravest thing is to do what's right without needing credit. And sometimes knights have important missions elsewhere, like you had to leave your old job to take care of them. The question carried the weight of conversations Jack didn't realize she'd overheard, discussions about financial sacrifices and career changes. That wasn't leaving Emma. That was finding what really mattered. The words caught in his throat, memories of Rebecca's final days mixing with the warmth of Emma's small hand in his. After Emma fell asleep, Jack sat at the kitchen table reviewing medical bills and insurance statements. The latest from Boston Children's Hospital indicated Emma would need additional cardiac testing. The heart murmur they detected at her last checkup showed concerning changes. Insurance would cover only 60% of the specialized tests. Another financial mountain to climb. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jack Miller, this is Olivia Kingston. I believe you were the one who helped me on Tuesday night. I'd like to properly thank you. Lakeside Inn Restaurant tomorrow, 7 p.m. The message sat unanswered for 20 minutes while Jack weighed risks against curiosity. How had she gotten his number? Dave wouldn't have given it without permission. The woman had resources beyond the average CEO. Finally, he typed, "You have the wrong number." Her response came immediately, Y-shaped scar on left wrist. Blue eyes, military precision when checking for spinal injuries. I pay attention to details, Mr. Miller. Just dinner, no strings attached. Jack stared at the phone, feeling exposed in ways that made his combat instincts flare. Dinner with a woman he'd rescued seemed harmless enough, but experience had taught him that nothing ever came without strings, especially from people with power and resources. The following morning, Emma's cough seemed worse. Her breathing had the labored quality that always sent cold fear down Jack's spine. He administered her inhaler, watching with clinical detachment that masked his internal panic as her breathing slowly normalized. I'm okay, Daddy. Just scratchy today. Her attempt at reassurance made his heart constrict. After dropping Emma at school, Jack arrived at Peterson's earlier than usual. Dave's raised eyebrows spoke volumes when Jack asked for an advance on his paycheck to cover Emma's medical tests. Everything okay with the little princess? Just some tests they want to run. Probably nothing. Dave's weathered hand landed on Jack's shoulder, the grip firm with understanding that transcended words. Take what you need. We'll sort it out in the books later. He hesitated, then added, that Kingston woman called this morning. Asked about you specifically. What did you tell her? Nothing she didn't already know. Look, Jack, I've watched you bust your ass here for 4 years. Never seen you take a night off, never heard you mention going on a date. Maybe talking to someone who isn't covered in grease might do you some good. The day passed in a blur of mechanical problems and physical labor. But Jack's mind kept returning to Olivia Kingston and her dinner invitation. By afternoon, curiosity had gained ground against caution. He'd go hear what she wanted and then return to the safety of his routine. Mrs. Winters from next door agreed to watch Emma for the evening, her grandmotherly affection for the girl making her refuse Jack's offer of payment. You need an evening to yourself, young man. When was the last time you talked to an adult who wasn't covered in motor oil? Jack arrived at the Lakeside Inn 15 minutes early. Military punctuality impossible to shake. The restaurant overlooked the water, upscale without being pretentious. He felt out of place in clean jeans and his one decent button-down shirt, shoulders stiff with the discomfort of a man who hadn't sat in such a setting in years. Olivia Kingston arrived precisely at 7, wearing a simple black dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her dark hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, and the bandage on her forehead had been replaced by skillfully applied makeup. She moved through the restaurant with the confident grace of someone accustomed to commanding rooms full of executives. "Mr. Miller, thank you for coming." Her smile seemed genuine, reaching her eyes in a way professional smiles rarely did. Jack assessed her with the automatic situational awareness that combat had burned into his nervous system. No visible threat, but something about her posture suggested tension beneath the polished exterior. She carried herself with the hypervigilance he recognized from soldiers who'd seen too much. They ordered drinks, water for him, red wine for her. When the waiter departed, she leaned forward slightly. "I wanted to thank you properly for what you did Tuesday night. Not many people would stop to help, especially in that storm. Anyone with basic first aid would have done the same." Jack kept his voice neutral, deflecting gratitude that felt undeserved. But not everyone would have stayed calm under pressure or known exactly how to assess spinal injuries in the dark. "You're not just anyone, are you, Mr. Miller?" The use of his name sent a shock through his system. "I looked you up. Former Special Forces combat medic, 8 years of service, honorable discharge. Then engineering at MIT, followed by 5 years at Raytheon working on navigation systems. Until 4 years ago when you suddenly disappeared from the professional world." Jack's muscles tensed, fight-or-flight response triggering at the casual revelation of information that should have been private. "How did you get that information?" Olivia's expression softened slightly. "I run a biomedical company, Mr. Miller. I have resources and connections. When someone pulls me from a wrecked car with military precision, then disappears without a trace, my curiosity gets piqued." The conversation felt like stepping off a cliff. But something about Olivia's steady attention made honesty feel safer than deflection. "I used to be someone else, but that was a long time ago. Now I'm just a mechanic trying to raise his daughter and pay his bills." He found himself telling her about Rebecca's illness and medical bills that had consumed his savings like wildfire, about trading his corner office for honest work that paid bills but couldn't touch student loans, about learning to navigate single parenthood while grieving the woman who'd been his anchor in every storm. "I'm sorry," she said when he finished. "Losing someone you love changes everything, doesn't it? Makes you question what really matters." Her eyes carried a depth of understanding that couldn't be faked. "What about you? What brings someone who drives a Bentley to a small town outside Boston?" She hesitated, fingers tracing patterns on the table surface. "I'm looking for something, or maybe trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life." The answer felt both truthful and carefully edited. "Kingston Biomedical, pediatric cardiac devices. That's an unusual specialty for a startup. Most go for broader markets." Olivia's eyes widened, slightly surprised by his knowledge. "You did your homework too, I see." She paused, seeming to make a decision about how much to reveal. "My sister died when she was 7, congenital heart defect that could have been fixed with the right technology. But the right technology wasn't profitable enough for the big companies to develop." Jack felt the conversation shift personal tragedy, creating unexpected common ground. "I'm sorry about your sister." "Sarah." Her name was Sarah. Olivia's voice softened around the name. "She would have been 27 this year. After she died, I promised myself I'd find a way to prevent other families from experiencing what mine did. It took years of education experience and planning before I could start Kingston. We're developing miniaturized cardiac assistance devices specifically for children." Before Jack could press for details, her phone buzzed with a blocked call. Olivia's expression shifted from open to guarded in a heartbeat. She glanced at the screen, tension visibly tightening her shoulders. "Excuse me, I need to take this." She stepped away from the table, voice lowered to a whisper that Jack couldn't quite hear. When she returned, her demeanor had changed completely. The relaxed woman who'd shared personal tragedy had been replaced by someone preparing for battle. Her movements became more controlled, eyes constantly scanning the restaurant. "I have to go. Something's come up." Her voice carried the calm precision of someone managing crisis. "Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Miller." She hesitated, then added, "Be careful what you read about me in the coming days. Not everything in the news tells the whole story." Before Jack could respond, she was moving toward the exit with determined strides. On the table beside his water glass sat a leather folder, the kind restaurants use for checks, that hadn't been there before. Inside wasn't a bill, but a USB drive small enough to be concealed between two fingers. Jack stared at the device, instinct warning him that accepting whatever information it contained would irrevocably change his carefully constructed life. He could leave it on the table, return to Emma, and the safety of their routine. The smart play was obvious. Walk away, forget Olivia Kingston and her mysterious problems. Instead, he pocketed the USB drive and paid for both their barely touched meals. The parking lot security light illuminated Olivia Kingston as she spoke urgently into her phone, pacing beside her black sedan. Jack kept his distance, combat instincts, recognizing the need for situational awareness. She wasn't being followed, at least not yet, but her behavior suggested imminent threat. As he approached his truck, a news alert buzzed on his phone. Local station breaking news about corporate espionage allegations against prominent Boston biotech CEO. No name mentioned yet, but the timing couldn't be coincidence. Jack drove home with the USB drive burning a hole in his pocket, questions multiplying with each mile. Mrs. Winters reported that Emma had been fine, but mentioned her cough had returned briefly before bed. Jack thanked her, paid her despite her protests, and locked the door behind her. Emma's bedroom door stood slightly ajar, her nightlight casting star patterns across the ceiling. Jack stood watching her sleep, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, suddenly seeming more precious than ever. The cardiac test scheduled for next week loomed in his thoughts. The USB drive connected to his old laptop with a quiet click. Password protected, military-grade encryption that surprised him for a civilian device. 4 attempts would trigger data deletion. Jack stared at the prompt, mind working through possibilities. What would Olivia Kingston choose? Something personal, but not obvious. He typed Sarah 27, her sister's name, and the age she would have been. The drive unlocked. The contents organized with military precision, technical specifications, research data, clinical trials, patent applications. Jack's engineering background allowed him to grasp the fundamentals despite the specialized medical terminology. Kingston Biomedical had developed a miniaturized cardiac assistance device, essentially a tiny mechanical heart support system that could be implanted in children as young as 5, with minimal invasion and maximum adaptability as they grew. The technology was revolutionary, potentially life-saving for thousands of children with congenital heart defects. But something about the patent applications caught Jack's attention. The earliest designs bore striking similarities to technology patented by Grant Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest medical device companies in the country. Deeper in the folders, Jack found personnel files. Olivia Kingston's resume revealed she'd previously worked as lead researcher at Grant Pharmaceuticals for 8 years before abruptly departing 3 years ago, the same time Kingston Biomedical was founded. Another folder contained legal correspondence between Kingston and Grant, cease and desist letters, allegations of intellectual property theft, counters claiming Grant had buried the technology despite its life-saving potential because projected profit margins didn't meet corporate thresholds. The final folder contained medical records, hundreds of children who could benefit from the device, statistical models showing survival rates with and without intervention. And there in the middle of the spreadsheet, a name that made Jack's blood run cold, Emma Miller. His daughter's medical records, complete with recent cardiologist notes about her deteriorating condition, were in Olivia Kingston's possession. How the hell did she get this information? Patient records were protected by federal law. Even with resources, this level of targeted information gathering suggested something beyond normal corporate capabilities. Jack's phone rang. Unknown number, just like before. This time he answered. Did you look at the drive? Olivia's voice sounded different, tense, hurried with background noise suggesting she was in a vehicle. How did you get my daughter's medical records? Jack's voice hardened with controlled fury. The same way I got yours. I have access to databases most people don't know exist. She paused. I'm sorry for the invasion of privacy, but I needed you to understand the stakes. This isn't just about corporate politics or profit. Children like Emma need this technology. That doesn't give you the right to. They're coming after me, Jack. Grant has filed criminal charges, claiming I stole their intellectual property. The technology they've kept buried for years because it wasn't profitable enough. The technology that could save Emma and thousands of children like her. The line went silent for several seconds before she continued. I developed that technology while working at Grant, My contract gave them ownership of anything I created, but they never intended to bring it to market. It threatened their cardiology pharmaceutical division. Why sell a device that fixes the problem when you can sell medication that treats symptoms for a lifetime? Jack processed her words against the evidence on the USB drive. The timeline matched. The technical specifications showed innovation beyond what Grant's patents covered, improvements and adaptations that could arguably constitute new intellectual property. Why are you telling me this? Why involve me at all? Because I need someone I can trust, someone who understands what it means to sacrifice everything for a child. Her voice softened. I've been watching you for months, Jack, not just since the accident. The revelation sent ice through Jack's veins. You've been stalking me, researching potential allies. The accident was coincidence. I lost control in the storm, but when you rescued me, I recognized you immediately. It felt like confirmation. Jack's military training kicked in. Threat assessment, strategic analysis, identification of critical information. What exactly do you want from me? Just keep the drive safe. If anything happens to me, get the information to Senator Diana Wright. She heads the Healthcare Oversight Committee and has been investigating pharmaceutical companies for burying life-saving technology. Before Jack could respond, Olivia's voice became urgent. I have to go. They've found me. Remember, Senator Wright. And Jack, Emma's condition is worse than her doctors have told you. The murmur is developing into restrictive cardiomyopathy. She needs intervention within 6 months, or her prognosis becomes very poor. The device could save her life. The call ended, leaving Jack staring at his phone in stunned silence. He immediately pulled up local news sites, finding the story now breaking across multiple outlets. Kingston Biomedical CEO accused of corporate espionage. Olivia's professional headshot stared back from the screen, alongside statements from Grant Pharmaceuticals claiming she had stolen proprietary technology worth billions. Jack spent the night reviewing everything on the USB drive, his engineering background, allowing him to understand the technical specifications, while his medical training helped him grasp the clinical implications. The technology was revolutionary, and the claims of theft seemed tenuous at best. Kingston's device had significant improvements and adaptations beyond Grant's original patents. More disturbing were Emma's medical records. Detailed cardiologist notes described progressive deterioration that hadn't been fully communicated to Jack. Terms like accelerated progression and surgical intervention likely necessary leapt from the screen. Why hadn't her doctors been this direct with him? Morning came with Emma's cheerful voice pulling him from thoughts that had circled all night. Daddy, why are you sleeping at the computer? Just some work stuff, sweetheart. How are you feeling today? Jack's eyes automatically assessed her color breathing rate, the subtle signs that only a parent with medical training would notice. I'm okay, just a little tired. Can we have pancakes? Emma's request was so ordinary, so disconnected from the medical terminology and corporate espionage that had consumed his night. They made pancakes together, Jack watching Emma for any signs of cardiac distress, while maintaining conversation about school projects and playground politics. The normalcy felt surreal against the backdrop of what he'd learned overnight. After dropping Emma at school, Jack called Mike Donnelly, a former colleague from Raytheon who had transitioned to biomedical engineering. The connection was tenuous. They'd worked together for only a year, but Mike had always respected Jack's technical abilities. Jack, man, long time. How's civilian life treating you? Mike's voice carried the forced casualness of someone who'd heard about Jack's dramatic career change. I need your eyes on something, Mike. Technical assessment off the record. Can you meet 3 hours later? They sat in Mike's cluttered office at a small engineering consulting firm. Jack had brought printouts of the technical specifications. Nothing that identified the source, nothing that connected to Olivia Kingston or Grant Pharmaceuticals. Mike whistled as he reviewed the documents. This is cutting-edge stuff. Miniaturized cardiac assistance with growth adaptation protocols. The power management alone is revolutionary. Where did you get this? Can't say. Just need to know if it's viable, and if it represents a significant improvement over existing technology. Mike's eyes narrowed slightly, but professional curiosity overcame skepticism. He spent 40 minutes analyzing the specifications, occasionally muttering technical terms and making annotations in the margins. It's not just viable, it's revolutionary. Whoever designed this solved the power management issues that have plagued pediatric devices for years. The adaptive growth protocols would eliminate the need for replacement surgeries as the child grows. This could be worth billions. And how different is it from current patented technology? Mike leaned back, choosing his words carefully. Different enough that any patent challenge would have solid ground to stand on. This isn't a minor iteration. It's a fundamental rethinking of the approach. The core concepts might be similar to existing technology, but the implementation is novel enough that I'd consider it distinct intellectual property. Why are you looking to invest? Just doing some research. Jack gathered the documents, mind racing with implications. If Mike was right, Olivia's claims had merit. Grant's accusations of theft might be legally defensible, but ethically questionable. Back at Peterson's, Jack found Dave watching the small TV in the break room. The new news showed footage of police at Kingston Biomedical Headquarters. Corporate espionage charges had escalated to include allegations of data theft and privacy violations. Crazy world, Dave commented, shaking his head. These big companies fighting while people need help. Wasn't she the lady looking for you the other day? Just someone I helped in an accident. Nothing special. Jack kept his voice casual despite the tightening in his chest. The afternoon passed with mechanical precision. Oil changes, brake repairs, transmission diagnostics. Work that required focus but left his mind free to process everything he'd learned. If Olivia was telling the truth, a potentially life-saving technology was being suppressed for corporate profit. Technology that could help Emma. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Channel 5 News, now. Jack stepped into the break room where the TV still played quietly. The headline scrolling across the bottom read, Kingston CEO maintains innocence, claims whistleblower status. Olivia Kingston stood outside what appeared to be a courthouse, composed despite the circumstances. The technology in question was developed on my own time using my own resources. Grant Pharmaceuticals has buried this life-saving innovation because it threatens their pharmaceutical revenue stream. They're willing to let children die to protect their profit margins. Her voice carried conviction that transcended the small screen. I founded Kingston Biomedical to bring this technology to the children who need it. I will not be silenced by corporate intimidation. A reporter shouted a question. What about allegations you accessed private medical records to identify potential customers? Olivia's expression hardened. My company conducts legitimate market research through proper channels. Any claims otherwise are attempts to distract from the real issue, Grant's suppression of life-saving technology. The station cut back to the anchors who transitioned to weather with practiced neutrality. Jack stood frozen, replaying Olivia's words in his mind. She hadn't denied accessing private records. She'd deflected with corporate language about legitimate market research. The school called just after 3. Emma had experienced breathing difficulty during physical education. Her inhaler had helped, but the school nurse recommended immediate medical follow-up. Jack left work immediately, mind racing between concern for Emma and the swirling questions about Olivia Kingston's true motives. At the pediatrician's office, Dr. Melissa Rodriguez examined Emma with gentle thoroughness. Jack had chosen Dr. Rodriguez specifically for her cardiac specialty and no-nonsense approach. I'm concerned about these episodes increasing in frequency, Jack. The heart murmur is showing signs of progression. Her tone carried professional detachment layered over genuine concern. I'd like to move up the echocardiogram we had scheduled for next month. Something's changing and I want to get a clearer picture of what we're dealing with. How serious? Jack kept his voice steady, aware of Emma watching from the examination table. De Rodriguez met his gaze directly. Serious enough that we need more information immediately. I've been consulting with colleagues at Boston Children's Hospital. There are some new approaches that might be appropriate depending on what we find. When they returned home, Emma settled on the couch with a book while Jack prepared dinner. His phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Need to meet. Serious developments. Same restaurant, 9 p.m. The response required no deliberation. Not interested. The reply came instantly. Emma's condition is restrictive cardiomyopathy developing from left ventricular non-compaction. Standard treatments will be ineffective within 4-6 months. Please, Jack. This isn't about me. Cold fury washed through him. The clinical assessment matched what Dr. Rodriguez had implied but hadn't explicitly stated. information that shouldn't be accessible to a biotech CEO he'd met once. After Emma was asleep, Jack arranged for Mrs. Winters to listen for her while he was gone. The drive to the Lakeside Inn felt like crossing a boundary between his carefully constructed life and a world of corporate espionage and moral ambiguity he'd deliberately left behind. Olivia sat in the same corner table, but everything else had changed. Gone was the polished executive in designer clothes. Instead, she wore jeans and a hoodie, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, no makeup covering the healing cut on her forehead. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming." Her voice carried exhaustion beneath professional composure. Jack sat down, keeping his voice low and controlled. "You have 60 seconds to explain how you have my daughter's confidential medical information before I call the FBI myself." Olivia didn't flinch. "I accessed the records through a medical database subsidiary that Grant acquired last year. They aggregate patient data for research purposes, supposedly anonymized, but the security is laughable if you know what you're doing. That's federal crime territory. So is suppressing life-saving medical technology for profit." Her eyes hardened with conviction. "Everything I told you is true, Jack. I developed the original technology at Grant. When I realized they were shelving it to protect pharmaceutical profits, I tried working within the system. Ethics committees, board appeals, even regulatory channels. Nothing worked." She leaned forward, voice dropping further. "So I left and started Kingston Biomedical. Rebuilt the technology from scratch, improving it significantly. We were 3 months from FDA submission when Grant filed their lawsuit. They don't care about the technology. They care about killing competition that threatens their pharmaceutical revenue." "Why involve me?" Jack kept his expression neutral, despite the battle between skepticism and hope raging inside. "Because you have skills I need. Engineering background, medical training, military experience. And because you have skin in the game now." She met his eyes directly. "Emma needs this technology, Jack. The standard treatments won't work for her specific condition. Grant knows this. They've known for years that certain genetic markers predict treatment failure. But acknowledging that would require developing alternatives that might hurt their pharmaceutical sales." Jack's mind raced, processing information against what he'd learned from Emma's doctors and the medical records. Everything aligned with uncomfortable precision. "I'm not asking you to break laws, Jack. I'm asking you to help me navigate a system that's already broken. Help me get this technology through FDA approval before Grant can bury it completely." Before Jack could respond, his phone rang. Mrs. Winters. Panic tightened his chest as he answered. "Jack, Emma's having trouble breathing. Her inhaler isn't helping like it should." Her voice trembled with concern too genuine to be anything but real. "I'll be right there. Call 911 if it gets any worse." Jack stood, already moving toward the door. Olivia followed, concern evident in her expression. "Emma." Jack nodded, conflict evident in every tense muscle. He hesitated, then spoke with military precision. "I'll consider what you've said, but if I find out you're manipulating me, or that you've put my daughter at risk for your corporate war, there won't be a legal system on Earth that can protect you." Her response carried unexpected vulnerability. "I wouldn't expect anything less. Go to Emma. We'll talk when she's stable." The drive home broke speed limits and traffic laws. Jack's mind caught between immediate parental concern and the larger implications of everything Olivia had revealed. If she was telling the truth, Emma's life hung in the balance of a corporate dispute about profit margins versus medical innovation. If she was lying, he was being manipulated by a desperate executive trying to salvage her company and reputation. Mrs. Winters met him at the door, relief evident in her expression. "She's doing better." The second dose of the inhaler finally helped. "But Jack, I'm worried." This episode was different. She was grabbing at her chest, said it felt tight inside. Jack found Emma in her bed, pale but breathing more normally. The look in her eyes, a combination of fear and attempted bravery, shattered something inside him. She was trying to be strong, just like he'd always taught her. "You okay, Daddy?" "I tried to be brave." Her voice sounded small in the darkened room. "You're the bravest person I know, Emma." Jack sat beside her medical training, automatically checking pulse, respiration, skin color. "When you're feeling better tomorrow, we're going to talk to Dr. Rodriguez about some special tests." He stayed beside her until she fell asleep, watching the now steady rise and fall of her chest. The parallels were impossible to ignore. Emma at 7, the same age Sarah Kingston had been when she died of a similar condition. The technology that might have saved Sarah might now be Emma's best hope. Jack's laptop still displayed the files from Olivia's USB drive, technical specifications for a device that could support Emma's struggling heart adapt as she grew and potentially save her from the fate that had claimed Sarah Kingston. A device being suppressed because treating symptoms indefinitely was more profitable than curing the underlying condition. The decision crystallized with military clarity. Jack Miller, former Special Forces medic, MIT-educated engineer, grieving widower and desperate father, would enter a corporate war he didn't fully understand. Not for Olivia Kingston or her company, but for Emma and children like her who deserve better than to have their lives balanced against profit margins. His phone lit up with a text from the unknown number. "Whatever you decide, delete these messages and use this instead." A secure messaging app link followed. Jack installed the app, created an account, and sent a single message. "I'm in, but on my terms. Emma comes first. Always." The response came immediately. "Understood. We start tomorrow. Be careful who you trust." The late-night news played quietly in the background as Jack researched Grant Pharmaceuticals more thoroughly. The company had grown exponentially in recent years, primarily through their cardiology medications. Their stock had split twice in the past 5 years, making executives and shareholders incredibly wealthy. A breaking news alert interrupted his research. FBI raids Kingston biomedical offices. Footage showed agents removing computers and boxes of documents. The reporter's voice carried artificial gravity. Sources say CEO Olivia Kingston is wanted for questioning regarding corporate espionage and potential violations of privacy laws. Kingston remains at large after failing to appear for a scheduled interview with federal investigators. Jack stared at the screen, pieces falling into place with disturbing clarity. Olivia Kingston was now officially a fugitive, and he had just agreed to help her. The USB drive in his possession likely contained evidence in what was now a federal investigation. His military career, his engineering expertise, even his role as Emma's father, all seemed to be converging toward a confrontation he never sought. The world was shifting beneath his feet, stable ground, giving way to moral and legal quicksand. But one certainty remained solid as bedrock beneath the chaos. Emma needed help that the system wasn't providing. If Olivia Kingston was telling the truth, the technology being suppressed might be Emma's best hope for survival. Jack Miller had once taken an oath to protect and defend. The battlefield had changed, but the principle remained the same. Sometimes protection required difficult choices and dangerous allies. Sometimes defending the innocent meant confronting systems designed to prioritize profit over human life. He closed the laptop, decision made. Tomorrow would begin a journey into corporate espionage, medical ethics, and the lengths a father would go to save his daughter. The cost might be his freedom, his reputation, even his life. But for Emma, there was no price too high. The news continued in the background. Olivia Kingston's professional headshot now labeled "Wanted for Questioning." Jack turned off the television, darkness settling over the apartment like a shroud. In the quiet, he could hear Emma's breathing from her bedroom, the slight wheeze that had become the soundtrack of his vigilant nights. Whatever came next, he would face it with the same determination that had carried him through war zones and personal tragedy. Not as Special Forces medic Jack Miller or MIT engineer Jack Miller, but as Emma's father, the only identity that truly mattered anymore. The black sedan with government plates pulled into Peterson's auto shop parking lot at precisely 10:17 a.m. Jack noticed them immediately. The vehicle too clean, too anonymous to be anything but federal. He continued working on Mrs. Johnson's Camry, hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. 8 years in Special Forces had taught him the value of appearing calm while planning escape routes. Two men emerged from the vehicle with the coordinated movements of partners who had worked together for years. The older one, silver at the temples, expensive suit beneath a regulation-issue overcoat, scanned the garage with the calculated assessment of someone accustomed to threat evaluation. The younger one hung back slightly, notebook already in hand. "Special Agent Robert Hayes, FBI. We're looking for Jack Miller." Hayes flashed his credentials with practiced efficiency, eyes already fixed on Jack, despite not having been pointed in his direction. Jack wiped his hands on a shop rag, buying seconds to assess options. 8 years ago, he would have had 3 extraction plans and a backup weapon. Today, he had Emma waiting at school and federal agents in a garage, where his only weapons were socket wrenches. That's me. What can I help you with? Jack kept his voice neutral, neither hostile nor overly cooperative. Hayes stepped closer, invading personal space with deliberate intimidation. We'd like to ask you a few questions about Olivia Kingston. I understand you two have become acquainted recently. The younger agent, badge identifying her as Special Agent Jennifer Chen, maintained more professional distance. Mr. Miller, we're investigating Ms. Kingston for corporate espionage and data theft. Any information you can provide would be appreciated. I helped a woman after a car accident a few days ago. Jack maintained eye contact with Hayes, recognizing the alpha posturing for what it was. Didn't get her name. Found out later it might have been this Kingston person when she came looking to thank me. Hayes smiled without warmth. And that's the extent of your relationship. No further contact, no private meetings. His tone suggested he already knew the answers, testing Jack's honesty rather than seeking information. Dave emerged from his office, the garage suddenly silent as other mechanics sensed the tension. Everything okay here, Jack? Just helping these FBI agents with some questions, Dave? Nothing to worry about. Jack's casual dismissal gave Dave the message, stay out of this. Hayes' eyes narrowed slightly at the interruption. Mr. Miller Kingston has stolen proprietary technology worth billions. She's accessed private medical records illegally and is using that information to manipulate patients for her corporate benefit. If you're withholding information, you could be charged as an accessory. Jack felt cold anger rising beneath his practiced calm. Accessing private medical records. Like my daughter's. The question was a calculated risk, confirming knowledge he shouldn't have while gauging Hayes' reaction. The flicker in Hayes' expression confirmed Jack's suspicions. So she did contact you. Hayes nodded to Chen, who pulled a card from her pocket. Chen approached with less aggressive body language. Mr. Miller, we believe Ms. Kingston is manipulating vulnerable families with sick children. She's promising miracle treatments to gain support for her company. If she's contacted you about your daughter, we need to know. Jack accepted the card, studying Chen's expression. Unlike Hayes, her concerns seemed genuine. I haven't heard from Kingston, but if someone's using my daughter's medical information, I want to know how they got it. Hayes stepped forward again and reclaiming control of the conversation. If Kingston contacts you, call us immediately. She's desperate and dangerous. People who believe they're righteous crusaders often justify extreme actions. After the agents left, Dave approached cautiously. FBI, huh? What the hell did you get yourself into? Jack, nothing. Just helped the wrong person at the wrong time. Jack's mind raced with implications. Hayes had been too confident, too informed about Jack's connection to Olivia. Either the FBI had resources Jack hadn't anticipated, or something else was happening. That evening, Jack took Emma for her scheduled cardiology appointment. The waiting room at Boston Children's Hospital featured bright murals and toys that failed to mask the underlying anxiety of parents watching their children with too careful eyes. Jack recognized the look, had seen it in his own reflection countless times. The silent calculation of how much worry to show versus how much normalcy to maintain. Emma sat beside him, coloring with focused precision, despite the nagging cough that interrupted her every few minutes. Jack subtly monitored her oxygen levels by watching her nail beds. Still pink, still adequate. The medical professional and the father waged constant war within him. Clinical assessment battling emotional panic. Dr. Rodriguez reviewed the latest echocardiogram with professional detachment that couldn't quite hide her concern. The ventricular non-compaction is progressing more rapidly than we'd hoped. Her cardiac function is declining despite medication adjustments. Jack processed the information with the compartmentalized focus he'd developed in combat zones. What options are we looking at? Traditional approach would be medication management, possibly leading to transplant evaluation. Rodriguez hesitated, then lowered her voice. But I've been reading about some experimental devices that might be more suitable for Emma's specific condition. Miniaturized support systems that grow with the child. Jack maintained neutral expression despite his racing heart. Are these devices available? Rodriguez glanced toward the door, ensuring privacy. Not exactly. There's a company developing something promising, but they're having regulatory issues. Corporate disputes have delayed FDA approval. Her expression reflected professional frustration. It's infuriating when patents and profits interfere with patient care. As they left the hospital, Jack felt the weight of knowledge pressing against his chest. The conversation confirmed everything Olivia had claimed about Emma's condition and the potential of Kingston's technology. It also confirmed the stakes, Emma's life balanced against corporate profits and legal boundaries. Jack's secure messaging app pinged that evening while Emma slept. Coordinates and a time, nothing more. No sender information, no context, just a location 30 miles outside Boston and tomorrow's date. The message deleted itself after 60 seconds, the application designed for exactly this purpose. Jack arranged for Emma to stay with Mrs. Winters the following day after school, explaining he had a job interview. The first lie in what he suspected would be a cascade of necessary deceptions. Each one took him further from the structured, honest life he'd built for Emma after Rebecca's death. The coordinates led to an abandoned manufacturing facility, the kind of location Jack recognized from extraction simulations during his military days. He approached with tactical awareness, scanning for surveillance, unmarked vehicles, or electronic monitoring equipment. The building appeared genuinely abandoned, but appearances in this world were rarely trustworthy. Steve Ramirez emerged from behind a rusted storage container, his military bearing unmistakable despite civilian clothes. Jack hadn't seen his former unit member in nearly a decade, but recognition was immediate and mutual. "Thought you were done with cloak and dagger bullshit, Miller." Steve's grin balanced warmth with wariness. Jack assessed his former teammate, still fit, still vigilant, but with new lines around his eyes that spoke of difficult years. "Civilian life treating you well, Ramirez." "Can't complain. Security consulting pays better than Uncle Sam ever did." Steve's expression shifted to business. "Your biotech friend is inside. She says you two have mutual interests." The interior had been converted to a makeshift operations center. Computer equipment, communication devices, and file boxes created an island of technology within the decaying industrial shell. Olivia Kingston sat at a workstation looking nothing like the polished executive or the desperate fugitive from previous encounters. She wore tactical pants and a simple black shirt, hair pulled back in a functional braid, focused intensity replacing corporate polish. "You've met Steve, former Delta Force. Now he runs security for what's left of Kingston Biomedical." Olivia didn't look up from her computer. "The FBI visited you. I need to know exactly what was said." Jack studied the operation with military assessment. 3 exits, backup power systems, communication equipment that appeared military-grade rather than commercial. Whatever Olivia Kingston was running, it wasn't a typical corporate operation. "Agent Hayes seems unusually invested in finding you. He knows details he shouldn't, including my connection to you." Jack watched her reaction carefully, and Agent Chen seemed genuinely concerned about patient manipulation. Almost like they're working different cases. Olivia's fingers stilled on the keyboard, eyes meeting Jack's with sharp focus. "Because they are. Hayes is on Grant's payroll. Chen is legitimate FBI investigating actual allegations. Hayes is making sure the investigation follows Grant's preferred narrative." "Prove it." Jack kept his voice neutral despite the implications. If a federal agent was corrupted, the entire situation became exponentially more complex. Olivia nodded to Steve, who opened a laptop displaying financial records. "Hayes has received 6 payments through shell companies connected to Grant Pharmaceuticals over the past year. Each payment coincided with key developments in Grant's lawsuit against Kingston. The evidence was methodical, detailed, and damning if authentic. I accessed his private financial records." Jack filled in the unspoken confession. "Like you accessed Emma's medical records." Olivia didn't flinch from the accusation. "We're past legal niceties, Jack. Grant is suppressing technology that could save thousands of children, including Emma. They're using the FBI to destroy evidence and discredit me before I can prove it." Steve interjected with military pragmatism. "Look, Miller, I vetted this operation before signing on. Kingston's technology works. Grant is burying it to protect their pharmaceutical revenue stream. This isn't conspiracy theory bullshit. It's corporate greed 101. Jack processed the information with tactical precision. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Olivia pulled up technical schematics Jack recognized from the USB drive. "I need someone with engineering expertise and medical background to help finalize the prototype. Someone who understands both the mechanical systems and the cardiac implications. Someone Grant won't be monitoring. And if I say no, then I'll find another engineer." Olivia met his gaze directly. But Emma won't find another solution. Her condition is progressing too rapidly for traditional treatments, and Grant knows it. They have the data showing which patients will fail conventional therapy. That's part of what they're hiding. The manipulation was transparent but effective. Jack's military training recognized the tactic, using personal connection to ensure compliance. But recognizing manipulation didn't make it less persuasive when Emma's life hung in the balance. I'll help with the engineering. I won't commit criminal acts. I won't risk Emma losing her father to prison. Jack established boundaries with precision learned from negotiating with warlords. Olivia nodded, accepting the terms without argument. We'll work within those parameters. The prototype is housed at a secure facility. We can arrange transportation that minimizes your exposure. Jack left the meeting with technical specifications and a burner phone, plus the unsettling knowledge that he'd crossed a line into territory that was at minimum ethically ambiguous. The engineer in him recognized the brilliance of Kingston's design. The father in him saw hope for Emma. The former soldier recognized the tactical disaster unfolding around him. That night, Emma's breathing grew labored again, the wheeze more pronounced despite increased medication. Jack administered her inhaler with calm efficiency that masked his internal panic. The cardiac issues were affecting her pulmonary function exactly as the medical literature predicted. Time was running shorter than he'd anticipated. While Emma slept, Jack reviewed Kingston's technical specifications. The design was revolutionary but had critical flaws in the power management system. The same issue had plagued military medical devices during his service, balancing power requirements against size constraints in devices that couldn't afford to fail. Jack began sketching alternative configurations, engineering training, resurging after years of disuse. The burner phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Hayes knows you met with me. Get out of your apartment now. Olivia's voice carried urgent command rather than panic. Take Emma to the emergency address in the phone's contacts. Steve will meet you there. Jack's military training kicked in before conscious thought. Go bag from the hall closet. Emma, wrapped in blankets, still half asleep. Essential medications, identification documents. The apartment evacuated with practiced efficiency despite years of civilian life. Emma didn't question the midnight evacuation, her trust in Jack so complete it created a pressure in his chest more powerful than any cardiac condition. Daddy's got a special job and we get to stay somewhere new for a while. Adventure time, right? The emergency address led to a nondescript suburban home in a middle-class neighborhood 40 miles from Boston. Steve met them in the garage, closing the door before they exited the vehicle. Hayes has a bolo out on your vehicle. We'll switch to a clean car tomorrow. Steve's expression carried professional concern rather than personal anxiety. You've got a bedroom upstairs for you and Emma. Doctor's coming in the morning to check her out. Someone we trust. Jack carried Emma to the designated bedroom, settling her back to sleep with practiced ease. When he returned downstairs, Steve waited with coffee and tactical maps of the area. Kingston said you'd want to know all exit routes, security measures, and defensive positions. Old habits, right? Steve pushed a mug across the table. Jack studied the security setup with military assessment. 2 panic rooms, reinforced entry points, surveillance covering all approaches. This isn't a biotech startup safe house. This is military grade. Steve's expression hardened slightly. Kingston Biomedical has specialized investors, people who understand what's at stake when corporations weaponize healthcare. The doctor arrived at precisely 7 a.m. Dr. Alan Foster, the former Grant researcher Olivia had mentioned. His examination of Emma was thorough, professional, and notably more optimistic than Dr. Rodriguez had been. Her cardiac function is compromised, but not critically yet. Foster's hands moved with the confident precision of decades of pediatric cardiology experience. The prototype device would be ideal for her condition, supporting function without replacing it growing as she grows. I helped design the original concept before Grant shelved it. Jack processed the new information with strategic assessment. So you're part of Kingston's operation? Foster packed his medical bag with methodical movements. I provide consultation. Official involvement would violate my non-compete agreement with Grant. His expression hardened with professional indignation. They paid me very well to develop technology they never intended to use. 30 years of research buried because treating symptoms indefinitely is more profitable than addressing root causes. After Foster left, Jack spent the morning helping Emma with schoolwork, maintaining routine within chaos. Steve monitored security systems with professional vigilance that suggested higher stakes than a corporate dispute. The afternoon brought a secured video call from Olivia. We need to move the prototype. Grant is getting close to our research facility. She looked exhausted, the composed executive completely replaced by a woman fighting on multiple fronts. Can you be ready tomorrow to assess the device? Jack weighed options with tactical precision. What's the exposure risk minimal? Secure facility, limited personnel. We'll have medical support for Emma while you are working. Olivia's expression softened slightly. I understand your priorities, Jack. Emma's safety comes first. We've arranged everything accordingly. The facility turned out to be a repurposed medical research center 90 miles west of Boston. Jack recognized the strategic choice, close enough to medical resources if needed, far enough from Boston to avoid immediate discovery. Emma settled into a comfortable room with medical monitoring equipment disguised as normal furniture, a private nurse posing as a babysitter, and enough books and games to maintain the illusion of an extended vacation. The prototype exceeded Jack's expectations in some ways and confirmed his concerns in others. The miniaturized cardiac support system represented breakthrough engineering, addressing size constraints and biocompatibility issues that had plagued similar devices. But the power management system remained problematic, creating potential failure points that no parent would accept for their child. I can fix this. Jack examined the circuitry with engineers' precision. The power coupling needs complete redesign, and the adaptive protocols need redundancy. But the core concept is sound. Olivia watched from across the laboratory, exhaustion momentarily replaced by hope. How long? 3 days for the redesign. Another week for testing. Jack set parameters with military clarity. I'll need specialized components and testing equipment. Already arranged, Olivia gestured to supply crates being wheeled in. Steve coordinated with our resources. Everything you need is here. For 3 days, Jack worked with focused intensity he hadn't experienced since his engineering days at Raytheon. The mechanical precision of problem-solving, the calculated testing of hypotheses, the satisfaction of obstacles overcome, all returned like muscle memory. Between work sessions, he spent time with Emma maintaining the fiction of special vacation while monitoring her condition with medical vigilance. On the 4th day, a breach alarm shattered the facility's focused calm. Steve's voice came through the emergency communication system. Hayes found us. We have 10 minutes maximum. Protocol Omega in effect. The laboratory erupted into controlled chaos. Data secured prototype packaged personnel, moving with practiced efficiency that suggested rehearsed evacuation procedures. Jack found Emma already being escorted to a secure vehicle by her nurse, emergency medications packed and ready. Olivia appeared at Jack's side, voice tight with controlled urgency. Take Emma through exit route, Charlie. Steve will meet you at checkpoint 2. I'll secure the prototype and data. Jack assessed options with combat clarity. Split up, too risky. Hayes won't stop with just you. We have multiple decoys deployed. Olivia handed him a secured tablet. Technical specifications and my personal notes are on this. If anything happens to me, get it to Senator Wright. Before Jack could argue further, the facility's lights cut out, emergency systems engaging with military precision. Steve's voice returned through the communication system. They've breached the outer perimeter. Move now, all personnel to evacuation points. In the controlled chaos of evacuation, Jack lost sight of Olivia. Emma clung to his hand with complete trust, accepting the emergency as another adventure rather than the tactical disaster Jack recognized it to be. They reached the designated vehicle, an anonymous SUV with reinforced components Jack recognized from military applications. Steve met them at checkpoint 2, an abandoned gas station 40 miles from the research facility. His tactical vest and sidearm had replaced civilian clothes, the security consultant fully replaced by the former Delta Force operator. Hayes brought private contractors, not FBI. Steve's voice carried professional assessment rather than emotional reaction. These aren't law enforcement tactics. This is military-style assault on civilian targets. Where's Kingston? Jack secured Emma in the vehicle's reinforced rear compartment, ensuring she had entertainment to distract from the adults' conversation. Separate evac route. She has the prototype. Steve checked communication devices with practiced efficiency. We'll rendezvous at fallback position in 6 hours, assuming everyone makes it. They drove through the night, changing vehicles twice using counter-surveillance techniques Jack hadn't employed since leaving the military. Emma slept through most of it, the combination of medication and childhood resilience, allowing her to adapt to chaos with flexibility Jack envied. The fallback position turned out to be a lakeside cabin so ordinary it became the perfect cover. Solar panels suggested off-grid capability, and the surrounding terrain offered both tactical challenges for potential pursuers and escape routes for defenders. Jack recognized the strategic selection of someone with military background. Olivia arrived 4 hours later, exhaustion evident in every movement. The prototype, Jack asked the critical question immediately. Secure. Different location. Olivia accepted water from Steve with shaking hands. Hayes doesn't have the full FBI behind him. He's running this operation with private contractors off the books. Jack processed implications with tactical assessment. That means he's vulnerable. Operating outside official channels creates leverage. Exactly. Olivia's expression hardened with renewed focus. Agent Chen is investigating Hayes' financial connections to Grant. If we can provide evidence linking Hayes to the raid, his protection of Grant collapses. Steve interjected with practical concern. That still leaves Grant's lawsuit and their claim to the technology. Olivia pulled a secure drive from her pocket. I've compiled evidence showing the original technology was developed on my personal time using my own resources. Grant's legal claim is based on employment contract provisions that don't cover independent research. The tactical discussion continued past midnight, strategy and contingencies developed with military precision. Jack participated while maintaining regular checks on Emma, her breathing slightly more labored after the stress of evacuation. The medication adjustments Foster had recommended helped, but Jack recognized the underlying deterioration continuing beneath temporary improvements. Morning brought tactical shift. Communications from Allied sources indicated Hayes had lost their trail, but was implementing surveillance on potential medical facilities where the prototype might be deployed. Grant had accelerated their legal offensive, adding criminal complaints to their civil lawsuit against Kingston. Jack worked on the prototype power management system throughout the day, engineering focus narrowing to the critical challenge of creating reliable long-term power supply for a device that couldn't be allowed to fail. Emma sat nearby drawing pictures of what she imagined the special heart helper would look like. The solution came unexpectedly through Emma's innocent question. Will it need batteries like my toys? What happens when they run out? Jack stared at her drawing, a heart surrounded by what looked like solar panels, as engineering intuition crystallized. Not batteries, induction charging, continuous power generated by the body's own movement. He reworked the entire power management system based on principles used in advanced military equipment, harvesting energy from the host system rather than requiring external power sources. The elegant solution would allow the device to function indefinitely without replacement surgeries for battery changes. Olivia reviewed the redesign with growing excitement. This solves our biggest technical obstacle. The FDA had concerns about long-term power management. Your design addresses everything they questioned. Jack continued refining calculations, engineering precision, focused on margins of error no parent would accept. Will it work for Emma specifically? Foster reviewed Emma's latest cardiac measurements with clinical assessment. It's ideal for her condition. The adaptive support matches precisely what her heart needs. The power solution ensures long-term viability without replacement surgeries. Tactical reality intruded on medical optimism as Steve returned from perimeter check. We've got company. 2 vehicles approaching from the north access road. Tactical movement suggests professional operators. The cabin transformed from medical discussion to defensive position with practiced efficiency. Emma moved to the hidden panic room with her nurse Jack, torn between tactical necessity and paternal instinct. Go with them. Olivia's voice carried surprising command. You're the only one who fully understands the power management redesign. If something happens to the rest of us, Emma still needs you. The logic was irrefutable despite emotional resistance. Jack joined Emma in the reinforced room, bringing technical specifications and the tablet containing critical data. Through surveillance monitors, he watched Steve and Olivia prepare defensive positions with practiced coordination that suggested previous operations together. The approaching forces moved with tactical precision that confirmed Steve's assessment. Professional operators with military background, not law enforcement. 8 individuals with assault equipment and communication systems surrounding the cabin with textbook containment strategy. Hayes emerged from the lead vehicle tactical vest and sidearm, replacing his previous FBI appearance. The cabin's audio surveillance captured his communication clearly. Secure the building and all occupants. Primary target is Kingston and any prototype devices. Secondary objective is all research data. Jack watched the assault unfold with strategic assessment, identifying weaknesses in Hayes' approach that suggested overconfidence. Steve exploited those weaknesses with precision, deploying countermeasures that indicated Delta Force training. Not lethal response, but strategic delay and misdirection. Olivia implemented what appeared to be prepared protocols, destroying certain documents while securing others in specialized containers. Her movements lacked Steve's military precision, but showed practiced efficiency that suggested rehearsal for exactly this scenario. The assault team breached the cabin's outer defenses more quickly than anticipated. Jack watched Hayes enter the main room where Olivia waited with deliberate calm, all traces of the frightened fugitive replaced by controlled executive presence. "This is an illegal operation, Hayes." Olivia's voice remained steady despite the weapons pointed at her. "You're acting outside FBI jurisdiction with private contractors. How will you explain this to your supervisors?" Hayes approached with confident menace. "There won't be anything to explain. You'll be arrested for corporate espionage, and any accusations you make will sound like desperate attempts to avoid prosecution." The confrontation escalated as Hayes demanded prototype locations and research data. Olivia's refusals were met with increasing aggression, Hayes' facade of law enforcement procedure dropping to reveal something more personally invested. "Grant is paying you well." I assume Olivia maintained composure despite Hayes' intimidation tactics. "How much does it cost to buy an FBI agent these days?" Hayes' control slipped, momentarily revealing anger beneath professional veneer. "You think this is about money? This is about protecting American innovation from corporate thieves who think they can steal billions in research." The surveillance feed captured Steve being subdued by 3 operators, his resistance carefully calculated to appear defeated while conserving energy and creating future tactical advantages. Jack recognized the strategy from joint operations, appearing more compromised than reality to create false security in opponents. As Hayes' team secured the cabin, Jack documented everything through the surveillance system, creating evidence of illegal operation by a federal agent using private military contractors against American citizens. The tactical part of his mind calculated options, while the father in him focused on keeping Emma calm in the confined panic room. "They're like the bad guys in my superhero movies, Daddy." Emma's whispered observation carried innocence completely disconnected from the tactical reality unfolding around them. Jack maintained reassuring calm while continuing to document the illegal operation. "Yes, sweetheart. But remember what happens in those movies. The good guys always find a way to stop them." The assault team conducted thorough search operations, becoming increasingly frustrated as they failed to locate the prototype or complete research data. Hayes' questioning of Olivia grew more aggressive, professional procedure completely abandoned for personal intimidation. Through surveillance audio, Jack heard Hayes make a critical mistake. Explicit acknowledgement of his relationship with Grant Pharmaceuticals and confirmation that the operation was unsanctioned by FBI leadership. Each statement was carefully documented, tactical advantage building, with every procedural violation. After 90 minutes of fruitless searching, Hayes ordered withdrawal, taking Olivia and Steve as detainees, but failing to locate the panic room or the critical technical data. Jack watched them being loaded into unmarked vehicles, Olivia maintaining composed dignity, while Steve implemented subtle resistance techniques designed to create evidence of mistreatment without provoking escalated response. When the tactical team cleared the perimeter, Jack emerged from the panic room with Emma moving immediately to emergency communication systems built into the cabin's infrastructure. The contact information Olivia had provided connected directly to Agent Chen's secure line. "I have evidence of Agent Hayes conducting illegal operations with private military contractors." Jack delivered information with tactical precision. "He's detained American citizens without warrants or proper procedure using non-FBI personnel." Chen's response carried professional focus without personal reaction. Location status of detainees. Jack provided tactical assessment of the situation, including vehicle descriptions, personnel numbers, and last known heading. Video evidence is being transmitted to your secure server now. Hayes explicitly confirmed Grant Pharmaceuticals' connection and acknowledged operating without FBI authorization. After securing FBI response to Hayes' illegal operation, Jack implemented the emergency evacuation protocol Olivia had established. A trusted medical transport arrived within 30 minutes, moving Jack and Emma to the secured medical facility, where the prototype device awaited final assembly and testing. Dr. Foster met them at the facility, concern evident beneath professional composure. Hayes has taken Kingston to an unofficial holding facility. Steve managed to activate emergency tracking protocols before they were transported. Jack processed tactical implications while settling Emma in the facility's pediatric suite. How long before Agent Chen can intervene? Uncertain. Hayes has political connections through Grant's board of directors. Foster's expression reflected professional assessment rather than emotional reaction. Our priority must be finalizing the prototype. Kingston established clear contingencies. Regardless of her status, the technology must be preserved and deployed. Jack spent the next 12 hours completing power management modifications to the prototype engineering, focus narrowing to the critical task, while tactical awareness monitored facility security and Emma's condition simultaneously. Foster provided regular updates on both Olivia's situation and Emma's cardiac function, both showing concerning deterioration requiring intervention. Senator Wright's office established secure communication by morning, the politicians' involvement adding legislative oversight to the increasingly complex situation. Grant's illegal actions through Hayes have triggered congressional interest. Wright's chief of staff spoke with brisk efficiency. The senator is calling for emergency committee review of Grant's suppression of life-saving technology. Jack completed final prototype modifications as Foster delivered concerning news about Emma's latest cardiac assessment. Her ventricular function is declining more rapidly than projected. We need to implement the device within 72 hours for optimal outcome. The parallel crises, Emma's deteriorating condition and Olivia's detention, created strategic imperative that clarified Jack's priorities with military precision. Foster, prepare Emma for procedure. I'll handle Kingston's extraction. Foster's expression reflected professional alarm. You're planning to personally intervene in a federal operation? Not federal. Illegal detention by corrupted agent using private contractors. Jack accessed the tactical equipment Steve had stored at the facility. Military precision returned with muscle memory as he checked weapons in communication systems. And not alone. I'm activating Steve's contingency team. The extraction operation unfolded with tactical precision developed through years of Special Forces missions. Steve's emergency protocols had activated a response team of former military operators now working in private security, men and women who understood both the tactical requirements and ethical implications of rescuing American citizens from illegal detention. Jack commanded the operation with natural authority, born from combat experience, directing infiltration of the unmarked holding facility with minimal force and maximum efficiency. Hayes had underestimated his opponents relying on secrecy rather than tactical advantage to protect his illegal operation. Olivia and Steve were secured within 2 hours of operation initiation, their physical condition stable despite detention conditions that violated multiple federal statutes. Each violation was documented with methodical precision, building legal leverage against both Hayes and Grant Pharmaceuticals. You risked everything. Olivia's voice carried exhausted disbelief as medical personnel assessed her condition. Emma needs you. Why would you participate in extraction operation? Jack maintained tactical focus despite personal relief at mission success. Emma needs the device. The device needs you to navigate FDA approval and implementation. Strategic necessity dictated tactical response. Steve's injuries required medical intervention but had been strategically exaggerated during detention, another Special Forces technique for creating false security and captors. His operational assessment confirmed Jack's suspicions. Hayes was operating completely outside FBI authority, using private contractors funded through Grant subsidiaries. The tactical success created new strategic options. With Hayes' illegal operation exposed and congressional oversight engaged through Senator Wright, Grant's legal position collapsed under multiple fronts. Evidence secured during the extraction operation documented explicit acknowledgement of technology suppression for profit motives. Corporate executives caught on recording discussing the financial advantages of burying pediatric cardiac technology to protect pharmaceutical revenue streams. Agent Chen arrived at the medical facility with federal tactical team, her professional focus creating clear distinction from Hayes' corrupted operation. We've secured the illegal detention site and all evidence. Hayes is in custody along with 3 Grant executives implicated in the conspiracy. Jack provided comprehensive briefing tactical precision, ensuring all evidence was properly documented and secured. Chen's response balanced professional responsibility with personal assessment. What you did was technically illegal and completely justified. My report will reflect the extraordinary circumstances. Strategic victory created space for the true priority to reemerge. Emma's declining cardiac function and the prototype device now ready for implementation. Foster led the medical team, preparing for procedure, his experienced confidence, providing reassurance against the experimental nature of the intervention. I've performed similar procedures in research settings. Foster reviewed final preparation with methodical focus. The device is perfectly sized for Emma's cardiovascular system, and your power management solution eliminates the primary complication risk. Olivia joined the medical discussion despite exhaustion from detention, her technical knowledge of the device matching Foster's medical expertise. The procedure has been performed successfully in 3 compassionate use cases outside U.S. jurisdiction. All patients showed immediate improvement in cardiac function. Jack absorbed the information with compartmentalized precision, the engineer evaluating technical specifications, the medic assessing medical protocols, the father confronting the ultimate risk assessment no parent should face. The alternative is continued deterioration and eventual transplant. Foster confirmed with professional directness. Conventional approaches would mean years of declining function, increasing medication, and ultimately transplant, with significant rejection risks. The device offers immediate support with adaptive growth potential as Emma develops. The decision crystallized with clarity, born from both military training and paternal love. Technical assessment confirmed viable solution. Medical evaluation confirmed necessary intervention. Strategic situation created unique opportunity for implementation. All factors aligned towards single conclusion despite inherent risks. Proceed with the procedure. Jack made the decision with quiet certainty that reflected both professional assessment and personal conviction. Emma deserves the chance to grow up without her heart holding her back. The procedure was scheduled for morning, creating 12 hours of precious normalcy with Emma before medical necessity overtook childhood routine. Jack spent the evening reading her favorite stories, playing board games, and maintaining the fiction of extended adventure rather than medical crisis. Do you think Mommy would be scared about my special heart helper? Emma's question emerged during quiet moment before sleep, her perception reaching beyond the careful narratives adults had constructed. Jack considered the question with honesty that respected her intelligence while preserving necessary hope. Mommy would be worried because she loved you so much, but she'd also be brave because she'd know this is the best way to help your heart grow strong. As Emma drifted to sleep, Jack maintained vigilant presence beside her bed, the parallels to Rebecca's final days creating pressure in his chest that had nothing to do with cardiac function. The memory of loss magnified the risk of current decision, creating emotional counterweight to logical certainty of medical necessity. Olivia found him there hours later, her approach silent, but presence sensed through combat awareness that never fully disappeared. You're making the right decision. Her voice carried conviction beyond professional assessment. I watched my sister die because the right technology wasn't available. Emma won't share that fate. The morning arrived with medical precision, preparation protocols implemented with practiced efficiency that provided illusion of routine despite experimental nature of the procedure. Emma approached the experience with courage that twisted Jack's heart, her small hand gripping his with complete trust that he'd chosen correctly on her behalf. I'll see you when I wake up, Daddy. I love you 3,000 million. Emma's pre-surgical declaration carried childhood certainty that outcomes match promises the universe fundamentally fair, despite all evidence to contrary. I love you 3,000 million and one. Jack maintained composed strength until Emma disappeared into surgical suite professional confidence, collapsing beneath paternal terror once outside her perception. Olivia's presence provided unexpected anchor during endless surgical hours, Her understanding of both technical procedure and emotional stakes creating shared perspective impossible with medical personnel focused on clinical outcomes. Jack recognized the parallels to her experience with Sarah, the helplessness of watching medical intervention without guarantee of success. The procedure extended 2 hours beyond projected timeline, each minute expanding to contain infinite possibilities of failure and success. Foster emerged from surgical suite with calculated neutrality that provided no immediate indication of outcome, professional composure maintained until privacy secured. The device is successfully implanted and functioning correctly. Foster delivered the critical information, first understanding parental priorities with experienced precision. Emma's cardiac function is already showing improvement. The power management system is performing exactly as designed. Relief crashed through Jack's compartmentalized control military discipline, temporarily overwhelmed by parental emotion. When can I see her recovery room in 30 minutes? Foster's expression softened with genuine optimism, rarely displayed in medical settings. Jack, this technology is revolutionary. The adaptive protocols are already responding to her specific cardiac patterns. This isn't just treating her condition, it's actively supporting natural improvement. As promised, Emma was transferred to recovery within 30 minutes, small form connected to monitoring equipment that displayed numbers Jack assessed with both medical knowledge and paternal concern. The improvement was already visible in basic vital signs. Stronger pulse, improved oxygen saturation, cardiac rhythm showing patterns closer to normal function than she displayed in months. "Hey, Daddy." Emma's voice emerged, weak but clear consciousness, returning more quickly than typical post-surgical pattern. "The doctor said my special heart helper is already working. Can we go home soon? Not for a little while, sweetheart." Jack maintained calm reassurance despite overwhelming relief. "The doctors need to make sure your heart helper is working perfectly first." The next 48 hours brought continuous improvement. Emma's recovery exceeding medical projections as the device adapted to her specific cardiac patterns with unprecedented precision. Foster monitored function with increasing optimism, technical success translating to clinical outcome that validated years of research and recent sacrifices. As Emma's condition stabilized, strategic attention returned to broader implications. Senator Wright arrived personally at the medical facility, political authority creating new leverage against both Grant's legal maneuvers and Hayes's corruption. Her assessment balanced political pragmatism with genuine outrage at corporate suppression of life-saving technology. The Oversight Committee will be investigating Grant's deliberate shelving of pediatric cardiac technology. Wright's expression reflected veteran politicians' controlled anger. Hayes is cooperating in exchange for consideration and sentencing. His testimony confirms Grant executives knowingly suppressed technology to protect pharmaceutical profits. Jack processed implications while maintaining focus on Emma's recovery. What happens to Kingston's company and the technology? Wright's response balanced political reality with moral imperative. Grant's patent claims are being reviewed under emergency committee oversight. Kingston Biomedical will likely retain rights to the improved technology you helped develop. FDA approval is being fast-tracked under compassionate use protocols. Strategic victory created space for personal recovery. As Emma's strength returned, Jack allowed himself to acknowledge the psychological impact of recent events. The military precision that had carried him through crisis slowly yielding to emotional processing, long suppressed beneath tactical necessity. Olivia found him on the facility's roof one evening, staring across city lights, with expression that balanced victory with accumulated cost. "We did it, Jack. Emma is getting better. The technology is moving forward. Hayes and Grant are facing justice." At what cost? Jack's question carried weight beyond immediate circumstances. "I've crossed lines I promised myself I'd never cross again. Returned to tactical operations I left behind for Emma's sake. Violated laws I swore to uphold." Olivia's response carried understanding born from similar compromises. Sometimes protecting what matters requires difficult choices. The system was broken. Grant was willing to let children die for profit margins. Hayes corrupted federal authority to protect corporate interests. You didn't break the system, you exposed its failure. The perspective shift offered new framework for reconciling tactical necessity with ethical foundation. Jack recognized the military principle applied to civilian context. Sometimes protecting innocent life required actions that existed in moral gray areas beyond simple legal boundaries. What happens now, Jack's question encompassed both immediate recovery and longer strategic implications. Olivia's expression reflected calculated assessment balanced with genuine hope. Emma continues getting stronger. Kingston Biomedical rebuilds with congressional support. The technology becomes available to thousands of children who need it. Her gaze met his directly. And you decide whether your future includes more than fixing cars. The fluorescent lights of the FBI field office cast harsh shadows across Agent Chen's face as she coordinated the tactical response team. 3 hours had passed since Jack's transmission of Hayes's illegal detention operation. The video evidence was damning. A rogue federal agent using private contractors to detain American citizens without warrants, explicit acknowledgement of connection to Grant Pharmaceuticals, all captured through the cabin's surveillance system. Alpha team in position, breach in 60 seconds. The team leader's voice crackled through the secure communication system. Chen nodded, professional focus masking the internal outrage at seeing a fellow agent betray his oath. The operation had been expedited through channels normally requiring days of authorization. Senator Wright's direct intervention, providing unprecedented clearance after viewing the surveillance footage. 20 miles away, Jack monitored Emma's vital signs at the secured medical facility where the prototype awaited final assembly. Foster had completed surgical preparations, the team ready to proceed once they received confirmation of Olivia's safety. Emma slept peacefully, unaware that her father had just orchestrated a tactical operation against corrupt federal authority, or that her heart's future hung in the balance between corporate greed and medical innovation. Target secured, suspects in custody, no casualties. The transmission brought immediate relief, though Jack maintained tactical composure as additional details emerged. Kingston and Ramirez recovered, condition stable. Hayes and 3 Grant executives taken into federal custody. Evidence collection underway. Within hours, Olivia and Steve arrived at the medical facility under federal protection. Chen accompanied them personally, her professional demeanor softening slightly when meeting Emma. "She's why all this matters, isn't she?" The agent's question carried understanding beyond procedural assessment. Olivia's physical condition showed signs of Hayes's interrogation techniques. Bruising at pressure points, fatigue from sleep deprivation, dehydration from limited water access. Yet her focus remained unwavering as she reviewed Emma's latest cardiac readings with Foster. Her ventricular function is deteriorating faster than projected. Foster's clinical assessment carried urgency beneath professional calm. "We should proceed with implementation immediately. The power management solution Jack developed solves our last technical hurdle." The surgical team assembled the following morning. Foster leading with his extensive device implementation experience, Rodriguez providing cardiac expertise specific to Emma's condition. Jack maintained military composure as they wheeled Emma into the operating room, her small hands squeezing his with complete trust. "See you soon, Daddy. Don't worry too much, okay?" Emma's courage twisted something deep inside him, the parallels to Rebecca's final surgery creating emotional pressure he contained behind tactical focus. Olivia remained beside Jack during the 6-hour procedure, her presence providing unexpected anchor as monitoring displays tracked Emma's vital signs. "I sat in a room like this when Sarah went into surgery," she said quietly, "except there was no device that could save her then." Foster emerged from the operating room with measured optimism that balanced clinical assessment with genuine hope. Implementation successful. The device is functioning exactly as designed, already providing supplemental support to the left ventricle. Her immediate response is even better than we anticipated. The post-surgical recovery exceeded all projections. Within days, Emma's energy levels improved noticeably. Within weeks, she could maintain light physical activity without fatigue. The cardiac monitoring app on Jack's phone displayed metrics that transformed from concerning red zones to stabilizing yellow, then to reassuring green as the device adapted to her specific cardiovascular patterns. Senator Wright visited the facility 1 month after the procedure, political authority, combining with genuine concern as she reviewed evidence against Hayes and Grant executives. "The Oversight Committee has opened formal investigation based on the evidence you provided. Hayes is cooperating in exchange for sentencing considerations. His testimony implicates Grant leadership directly in technology suppression and illegal operations." Chen's investigation expanded beyond Hayes to the corporate structure that had enabled and funded his operations. We've traced payments from Grant subsidiaries to private security contractors through shell companies across 3 states. This wasn't just one corrupt agent. It was systematic corporate espionage with federal resources. As Emma's condition stabilized, Jack accepted temporary consulting position with Kingston Biomedical. His engineering expertise focused on refining the power management system for broader implementation. The company rebuilt under congressional protection, Olivia transitioning from fugitive to recognized innovation leader as Grant's legal position collapsed under federal investigation. 6 months after Emma's procedure, Dr. Rodriguez reviewed her progress with undisguised amazement. Her cardiac function has improved by 87%, far beyond what we projected. The device's adaptive protocols are responding perfectly to her specific patterns. She hesitated, then added, "The latest scans show something unexpected. The ventricular tissue appears to be strengthening, not just being supported. We're seeing potential regeneration where damage previously appeared permanent." The discovery accelerated research into therapeutic applications beyond mere support. Jack's engineering team collaborated with medical researchers, expanding device capabilities to include tissue regeneration protocols that transform treatment paradigms from management to potential healing. By the 1-year mark, Kingston Biomedical had secured emergency FDA approval for compassionate use implementation in 50 additional pediatric cases. Each success strengthened their position against Grant's diminishing legal challenges, each child's improved health building irrefutable evidence of the technology's life-saving potential. The congressional hearing occurred 18 months after Emma's procedure. The Senate Healthcare Oversight Committee chamber hummed with anticipation as Jack adjusted his tie-formal attire, still foreign after years in mechanics uniforms. Through the massive oak doors waited members of the committee, Grant Pharmaceuticals executives, media representatives, and families whose children's lives hung in the balance of today's testimony. Emma sat beside him in the waiting area, swinging her legs with childish energy that would have been impossible before the device. Her pink dress and matching headband were her own choice. Heart Helper Celebration Clothes, she called them. The monitoring app displayed metrics that still amazed Jack: cardiac function at 92% of normal oxygen, saturation stable at 98%, no arrhythmia in over 3 weeks. "You're our strongest witness," Foster said as he joined them, his confidence reflecting someone accustomed to congressional testimonies. "The combination of your engineering expertise and Emma's remarkable recovery creates compelling testimony that even Grant can't dismiss." Olivia arrived last, her appearance transformed from the fugitive of 18 months ago. As interim CEO of the newly restructured Kingston Medical Innovations, she projected professional authority balanced with passion of someone fighting for personal conviction rather than mere corporate success. The charcoal suit and subtle makeup couldn't mask the shadows beneath her eyes, the price of months battling legal challenges while racing against regulatory hurdles. Grant's legal team tried to exclude Emma's medical data last night, claiming privacy concerns, she explained as they prepared to enter. Senator Wright overruled them personally. The hearing room fell silent as they entered, congressional staffers directing them to the witness table facing the elevated committee desk. Jack felt Emma's hand tighten in his, her courage creating pressure in his chest more powerful than any cardiac condition. Senator Wright called the session to order, her opening statement establishing context with political precision that balanced procedural requirements with moral conviction. Today's hearing continues our investigation into allegations that Grant Pharmaceuticals deliberately suppressed potentially life-saving pediatric cardiac technology for financial gain, utilized illegal means to protect these actions, and attempted to destroy competing innovation through improper influence of federal law enforcement. Robert Davidson, Grant's CEO, sat with his legal team across the chamber, expression maintaining corporate neutrality despite mounting evidence against his company. Jack recognized the tactical approach. Admit minimal wrongdoing, blame rogue employees like Hayes, protect shareholder value above all else. Jack's testimony balanced technical explanation with accessible clarity, detailing the device's functionality, engineering challenges overcome, and power management solution that enabled long-term implementation without replacement surgeries. Senator Taylor, Grant's strongest ally on the committee, attempted to undermine his credibility, through carefully constructed questioning about the extraction operation against Hayes. Sometimes protecting the innocent requires confronting corruption directly, especially when those meant to uphold justice have been compromised. Jack responded military precision, returning to his posture. The answer silenced Taylor momentarily whispers, spreading through the gallery as families of affected children nodded in agreement. Olivia's testimony detailed the development process at Grant and the subsequent discovery that executives had no intention of bringing the technology to market despite its life-saving potential. Internal communications obtained through congressional subpoena provided damning evidence of deliberate suppression motivated by protecting pharmaceutical revenue streams. I developed this technology after watching my sister die from a condition it could have prevented. She stated, voice steady despite the personal revelation. When I realized Grant was bearing it to protect their cardiology medication profits, I faced an impossible choice: respect corporate ownership or honor my sister's memory by ensuring other children wouldn't share her fate. I chose the children. Davidson's testimony attempted damage control through corporate language and carefully structured admissions, but Wright's questioning cut through the platitudes with veteran politicians' precision. Mr. Davidson, we have emails from your personal account discussing, and I quote, profit degradation of approximately $2.1 billion annually if device replaces maintenance medications. Would you characterize this as isolated incident or corporate strategy? Dr. Foster's testimony provided medical validation that transcended corporate disputes, his decades of cardiology experience lending credibility to assessments of the device's revolutionary impact. In my 40 years practicing pediatric cardiology, I've never seen technology with this potential to transform outcomes for children with congenital cardiac conditions. The adaptive growth protocols eliminate the need for replacement surgeries, while the power management solution developed by Mr. Miller ensures long-term viability without external intervention. The afternoon testimony from affected families created emotional impact that technical discussions couldn't match. Parents described watching their children transform from medically fragile to active participants in normal childhood activities. Medical costs reduced by over 70% compared to conventional treatments. Quality of life improvements quantified through standardized assessments. Emma's testimony came last. Brief child-appropriate questions about her experience before and after receiving the device. Her answers carried innocent clarity that cut through political and corporate complexity. Before my heart helper, I got tired really fast and sometimes my chest hurt. I couldn't play soccer or swim like my friends. Now I can run and play and only have to see the doctor for checkups instead of emergencies. Her simple assessment captured technical reality with children's directness. Why would anyone want to stop other kids from getting better too? Davidson had no effective response to Emma's question, his legal team advising against addressing her directly. The strategic failure created visual testimony more powerful than any technical evidence. Corporate executive unwilling to explain profit-motivated suppression to a child whose life was saved by the very technology his company buried. The committee's official findings exceeded even Wright's preliminary assessment. Grant Pharmaceuticals faced record fines for regulatory violations, mandatory restructuring of research protocols, and independent ethical oversight of all pediatric medications and devices. 3 executives, including Davidson, faced criminal charges for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Hayes had already accepted plea agreement testimony against Grant executives, reducing his sentence while ending his law enforcement career. Kingston Medical received exclusive development rights to the improved device technology with expedited FDA approval pathway and funding for expanded clinical trials. Jack's power management solution received separate patent protection, ensuring his contribution would be both recognized and compensated. The victory created new challenges as media attention transformed overnight. Jack and Emma suddenly featured in medical journals, human interest stories, and business publications, analyzing the David versus Goliath narrative of individual innovation against corporate suppression. Privacy became luxury rather than expectation. Security concerns requiring Steve's continued vigilance despite changing threat landscape. 3 months after the congressional hearing, Olivia invited Jack to Kingston Medical's newly established research facility outside Boston. The building balanced clinical functionality with deliberate humanity. Children's artwork decorating laboratory walls, natural light, illuminating technical workspaces, dedicated areas where patients and families could observe research activities. The tour ended at newly established engineering division, workspace designed with obvious consideration of Jack's methodical processes and technical preferences. Olivia stopped beside workstation bearing his name expression balancing professional proposition with personal hope. We need a director of engineering, someone who understands both the technical challenges and human stakes of pediatric medical devices, someone with military precision and paternal perspective. The position had been approved by the board compensation package, including comprehensive benefits and flexible scheduling to accommodate Emma's needs. Jack studied the workspace with engineers' assessment and father's consideration. The past months had transformed his understanding of purpose, mechanical repair, giving way to innovation, private life expanding to include public advocacy, individual focus broadening to systemic change. "I'm a mechanic, not a corporate executive," he said, objection, carrying less conviction than similar statements months earlier. "You're an engineer who found temporary refuge fixing cars," Olivia responded. "What you did with the power management solution wasn't mechanical repair. It was visionary innovation. We need that vision focused on helping more children." Emma's 6-month checkup provided unexpected clarity to the decision. Rodriguez reviewed progress with undisguised amazement at cardiac improvements exceeding all projected outcomes. "The adaptive protocols are working better than anyone anticipated. Her heart is actually strengthening, not just being supported. We're seeing tissue regeneration previously considered impossible." Jack absorbed the information with compartmentalized precision. "What does this mean long-term?" Rodriguez's expression balanced medical caution with genuine optimism. "If current trends continue, she may eventually function without the device. We're seeing actual healing, not just management. This could revolutionize treatment approaches for thousands of children." The implications crystallized Jack's decision with military clarity. The device's impact extended beyond individual patients like Emma to fundamental transformation of pediatric cardiac treatment. His engineering contribution had catalyzed medical breakthrough with generational implications. Returning to mechanical repair would waste specialized knowledge that could save countless lives. He accepted Kingston Medical's offer, engineering division expanding rapidly under his leadership. Specialized team assembled from former military medical developers, academic researchers, and practical innovators who understood both technical challenges and human stakes of pediatric devices. Jack's designs expanded beyond cardiac applications to other pediatric specialties requiring miniaturized adaptive medical devices. 1 year after the congressional hearings, Kingston Medical hosted celebration recognizing 100 successful device implementations across 4 continents. Children previously confined to medical restrictions ran through the research facility's atrium with energy that represented ultimate validation of technical innovation. Parents watched with expressions balancing lingering medical vigilance with growing confidence in their children's futures. Emma moved through the gathering with ambassadors' natural charm connecting with other device recipients through shared experience while maintaining 8-year-old's innocent perspective. Jack watched from peripheral position, military situational awareness never completely disappearing, despite security teams' professional coverage. Steve approached with security chief's measured urgency expression, suggesting development requiring immediate attention. Grant's remaining legal team just filed emergency motion to halt international device implementations pending new patent review. They're claiming previously undisclosed technical specifications they've suddenly discovered in their archives. Jack processed implications with tactical assessment. Senator Wright, already engaged, her office is treating this as deliberate obstruction of congressional mandate. Steve maintained professional detachment despite obvious frustration. But legal challenges could delay implementation for children outside U.S. jurisdiction, even with domestic protections in place. 3 days later, Judge Eleanor Harmon denied Grant's emergency motion with judicial clarity that balanced legal technicalities with practical implications. This transparent attempt to delay implementation of life-saving technology through procedural obstruction violates both legal ethics and basic human decency. The victory created breathing room for Kingston Medical's continued expansion, international implementation programs proceeding while domestic treatment centers increased capacity. Jack divided attention between engineering leadership Emma's ongoing recovery, and developing personal connection with Olivia that had evolved beyond professional collaboration to genuine partnership founded on shared purpose. 16 months after Emma's procedure, Dr. Foster located Sarah Kingston's medical records during discovery process. Grant executives had deliberately destroyed them during the initial investigation, but Hayes preserved copies as leverage. The records confirmed everything Olivia had claimed about her sister's condition and potential treatability, while genetic analysis showed hereditary component affecting immediate family members. The markers suggest 60% probability you carry the same genetic predisposition. Jack explained that evening after research staff departed, presenting the information with direct compassion. Preventive monitoring would identify developing issues before becoming symptomatic. Olivia absorbed the information with composed processing that couldn't quite mask emotional impact. I might carry the same condition that killed my sister. The markers suggest probability, not certainty, Jack clarified. And if needed, we've now developed effective intervention. Olivia's response balanced vulnerability with characteristic determination. Schedule the testing. If I'm fighting for this technology, I should know if I might need it myself someday. The genetic testing confirmed suspicions. Latent cardiac structural abnormality requiring monitoring, but not immediate intervention. The knowledge intensified rather than diminished her commitment to advancing the technology. Research expanded from pediatric applications to adult cardiac conditions, particularly those with genetic components that could be identified before becoming symptomatic. 18 months after Emma's procedure, Kingston Medical's monitoring system triggered unprecedented alert during routine follow-up. Rodriguez studied readings with clinical assessment that gradually transformed to cautious optimism as patterns emerged from data. Her heart is functioning independently during rest cycles, she explained, maintaining professional caution despite clear excitement. The device is disengaging automatically when unnecessary, allowing natural cardiac function to strengthen during periods of minimal demand. Jack processed information with compartmentalized precision, balancing engineering assessment with paternal hope. You're saying her heart is learning to work properly on its own. Rodriguez nodded, medical caution tempered by mounting evidence. The adaptive protocols appear to be facilitating actual healing, not just support. We're seeing tissue regeneration beyond expected parameters and functional independence during appropriate intervals. If this trend continues, she may eventually function without the device entirely. The possibility created both hope and unexpected anxiety. Potential for Emma's complete recovery balanced against the uncertainty of transition from supported function to natural independence. The discovery accelerated research into regenerative capabilities previously considered impossible potential applications, extending beyond original intentions to revolutionary approach for cardiac recovery. 2 years after the initial procedure, Kingston Medical's board approved construction of Pediatric Regenerative Medicine Center bearing Sarah Kingston's name. The facility would combine research laboratories, treatment spaces, and family support services in an environment designed for both technical innovation and human healing. Emma's cardiac function maintained independence for 6 consecutive months, monitoring showing sustained natural function without device engagement. Medical consensus supported device removal data, confirming healing previously considered impossible. The night before scheduled procedure, Jack found Emma arranging items on her bedside table with methodical precision, reminiscent of his own habits. Lucky stuffed elephant, favorite books, framed photograph of Rebecca. I wish Mom could see my heart is fixed now, Emma said quietly. Do you think she knows somehow? Jack sat beside her, military composure, momentarily overwhelmed by parental emotion. I think love doesn't stop just because people leave us. Your mom saw your heart when it was still perfect, before anything needed fixing. She'd be incredibly proud of how brave you have been. The surgical team included Foster and Rodriguez's procedure combining routine extraction with unprecedented documentation of healed cardiac tissue. Jack maintained composed vigilance in waiting area, Olivia providing unexpected anchor during anxious hours, despite her own scheduled device fitting the following week. Her cardiac condition had progressed, requiring intervention, the technology she'd fought to protect now necessary for her own survival. Sometimes the universe has strange symmetry, she observed. I fought for this technology because of Sarah, never imagining I'd need it myself. Foster delivered post-surgical update with measured optimism, balancing clinical assessment with genuine amazement. What we found exceeds our most optimistic projections. Emma's heart shows complete restructuring of previously damaged tissue. The ventricular walls have normal density and function. We're seeing genuine healing, not just compensation or adaptation. 6 months after Emma's device removal, Kingston Medical celebrated groundbreaking for the Sarah Kingston Center for Pediatric Regenerative Medicine. The ceremony attracted national attention. Senator Wright attending alongside medical dignitaries and families whose lives had been transformed by technology nearly buried for profit motives. Emma participated in ceremonial first shovel her complete recovery, representing ultimate validation of battles fought. She released butterflies symbolizing transformation and renewal, connecting Sarah Kingston's memory to future innovations. Jack watched his daughter's expression as butterflies scattered toward open sky, her joy unburdened by cardiac limitations that had defined her early years. That evening, Jack found quiet moment with Emma amid celebratory conversations. The monitoring app remained on his phone despite medical consensus that continued surveillance was unnecessary, paternal vigilance resistant to complete technological disengagement despite clinical evidence. Emma studied his expression with perceptive clarity, developed through years of medical challenges. "We don't need the app anymore, Daddy. My heart works right now." Jack acknowledged the gentle correction with military precision, softened by paternal emotion. "Old habits. I promise to keep you safe, and that's hard to turn off even when the danger's gone." "Being safe isn't the same as being afraid to live," Emma responded with wisdom beyond her years. "Mom would want us both to be brave now." The observation crystallized understanding beyond technical specifications or medical outcomes. Jack recognized the parallel journey he'd traveled alongside Emma, from tactical survival through medical crisis to genuine recovery, requiring release of hypervigilance that had defined their lives. As celebration continued around them, Jack made deliberate gesture of closing monitoring application, tactical release of control systems no longer necessary for mission success. The action represented transition beyond crisis management to genuine living, military precision, acknowledging mission parameters had fundamentally changed from survival to prosperity. Olivia observed the moment from conversational distance, understanding its significance beyond obvious action. Her approach balanced professional respect with personal connection developed through shared challenges. Some battles end with definitive victory. The hard part is remembering how to live afterward. Jack recognized truth transcending both military experience and medical crisis. Everyone gathered in celebration represented living proof that systems could be changed, corporate power confronted, and healing achieved beyond medical projections. The real challenge lay in embracing possibility beyond survival, building future unrestricted by defensive postures developed during necessary battles. Emma returned to their conversation with characteristic energy, excitement about future building plans, temporarily overwhelming ceremony's formal constraints. The new building is going to have special windows where kids can watch scientists making things that help them get better. They won't be scared because they can see how everything works. The perspective captured essence of transformation beyond technical specifications or medical metrics. Transparency replacing mystery, understanding, conquering fear, innovation serving humanity rather than profit margins. Jack recognized his daughter's innocent wisdom as ultimate validation of choices made and battles fought, her future now unrestricted by either corporate suppression or cardiac limitation. Senator Wright approached with political veterans' measured pace expression, suggesting new opportunity rather than continued crisis. "We're expanding the program to veterans' hospitals. Government funding was just approved. Your expertise would be invaluable in adapting the technology for combat injuries." Jack processed new tactical direction with military assessment, balancing professional opportunity with personal priorities. His gaze returned to Emma, her unrestricted movement through the celebration representing ultimate mission success beyond professional achievements or corporate victories. Technical innovation had provided medical miracle, but genuine healing had emerged through human connections forged in shared purpose. The engineer who became reluctant warrior against corporate corruption had found unexpected path to personal restoration alongside his daughter's physical recovery. Emma's wisdom applied equally to cardiac devices and human hearts. Technical innovation and emotional recovery. past battles, and future possibilities. The ultimate victory lay not in corporate restructuring or regulatory reform, but in courage to embrace life beyond necessary vigilance when genuine healing made hypervigilance obsolete. Being safe isn't the same as being afraid to live. As celebrations continued around them, Jack recognized the simple truth that had eluded his tactical planning and military precision. The most important mission had succeeded beyond all projections, not just saving Emma's heart, but teaching his own to beat without fear again.